Well, I guess I'm in Stoke.
I know, thank you for being here.
Tell me a little bit about your background. We're here to talk about property, right? Before all of this, and by all of this, I mean like the empire that you are building. I feel like you've just gone from 0 to like 100 miles an hour. But what was going on for you before property became your passion, obsession? Is that too strong a word?
Do you know what? It probably is an obsession, although not quite as obsessive as my love for cake. My properties are, if you've noticed it, all named after different cakes. I currently stood in Project Red Velvet at the moment.
Love it.
And we've just been to visit Project Muffin as well.
Yes, okay.
I have a problem, which is I'm addicted to property.
Hi, my name's Kerry. And
exactly. So prior to starting to build a property portfolio, I've worked in the television industry for about 15 years.
On the other side of the camera.
On the other side of the camera.
Where
so this makes me feel really quite awkward. I'm a production manager. Mm-hmm. So my role is I look after the budgets, the logistics, the coordination, the hiring, sometimes the firing, health and safety, essentially seeing a production through from start to finish. Okay. So yeah, I've worked on a number of programs. I've had a lot of great experience in television, and fortunately it's given me a lot of transferable skills into property, especially around like the financing side and budgeting as well. Yeah. I'm self-employed. I lost my job overnight once COVID hit. Okay. And that was the real highlight for me, that I needed to do something in property. And it stems back to my dad. Whenever I was naughty as a child, he used to take me out on boring drives, and he would take me to go and look at new build estates and around the estate agents. I wish he was still alive to see all this, but I know that he would be on this journey with me if he was still around. When I was at university, I used my student loan as a deposit for a house and rented out a couple of rooms to pay for my mortgage. So in theory, did a bit of HMO without even realising it.
So that passion had been there for a long time?
Yes.
Did you kind of roll up your sleeves? Day one, COVID hit, lost my job, that's what I'm going to do? Like, was it that clear?
It was very clear that property was going to be the end game. I just didn't know how that looked. Okay. So I listened to a lot of podcasts, starting with your own, and listening to Kath Gibbs' podcast about supported living. Yeah. And that really ignited in me that, okay, there are other strategies in property that I could look to do. I didn't realise, okay, there's HMOs, there's serviced accommodation, there's supported living. I was listening to YouTube videos, I did your course, and it was from then that I realised this is the way to go. That
realisation that property was going to be the next chapter for you to your first deal, what did that look like?
I met a group of girls through a mutual friend, finding out what they've been up to, the strategies that they're doing. They've acted as a huge sort of guide towards helping me to where I am today. So my first deal, I came across a property where I invest, and I looked at it and I thought, you know what, this could make a really nice 4-bed student house. Quite run down, it was illegal, it wasn't compliant. You know, there's that little bit in your head saying, I can't, if it's a deal, maybe I need to get it under asking price. But as we know, asking price is just a figure. It doesn't really matter what it is.
But it's amazing how powerful the psychology of that is, a figure that an estate agent's just made up. We get so up in our heads about what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I chatted it through with the girls. And in fact, one of my friends said, just buy the bloody house, just buy the bloody house. So that's what I did.
Will she appreciate that accent as well?
Exactly, she will. Sorry, Terry. I went and bought the bloody house and let it out as an Airbnb for 10 months, very successfly. Yeah. But my aim was always to get it onto the student cycle.
So even though it was successful as an Airbnb, you didn't change your end game on that one?
No, my end game was always to do a student-let HMO. Okay. And do you know what? The amount of students that were lined up at the door wanting to get it, there's a market for level of HMO. Yeah. And so I've gone off and bought next door as well.
Because I think the preconception about where we are, Stoke, Newcastle, there's so much competition there, it must be saturated. The competition doesn't really matter if the demand is there.
Yes.
Like, you're not in competition with each other.
I'm more than happy to help wherever I can, because to me there's enough property to go around for all of us. I do feel that if you're doing a good level of property, then you will get that demand, and I've certainly seen that myself personally.
And as we're driving around today, you're kind of pointing out the window, got that one under offer, we've got this one, students are moving into that next week. It feels like it's just exploded for you. What do you think has changed from the nervousness and you getting in your head around that first deal, should I offer over asking, to being at the stage now where you're like building this empire?
A big part of it is knowing my why, building wealth for not just my family, but obviously for my daughter long term. I want to sort of grow at speed because it then takes the pressure off having to work in the television industry all the time. I have got mentors as well. I absorb so much positive content now. Books that you've recommended online, books that other people have recommended. That 1% every single day, I can already tell in 12 months it's completely shifted my mindset to the point where I'm like, offer. And at the moment it's getting accepted.
Talk to me about this house specifically. So is this the biggest project you've done?
This is the biggest project, and this one took 13 months. We had a lot of hurdles. We had problems with the solicitors missing land charges. We had damp and timber reports that had to be done multiple times that the lender then chose, yes, we're going to lend, no, we're not going to lend. There was a structural issue that needed dealing with. The vendor did lose their patience and dropped out on me. So I actually did lose this property after about 9 months of conveyancing.
And you'd already done some of the structural repairs out of your own pocket?
Yes, yeah. Our relationship with him, he did kindly agree to paying several £1000s to get a structural.
And ultimately came back to you as well?
Yes, absolutely, because he knew I was committed.
Yeah.
Stubborn, perhaps, whatever you want to describe
Charming,
as.
I think.
Yes. Second time round, it was like, right, we're just going to buy it on a bridge because it doesn't really matter what the state of the building is. We'll just get whatever work needs doing and then we'll refinance it. It's a 7-bed HMO. And I wanted to create a huge open planned sort of nice living space for the tenants. So we knocked out 2 walls in the kitchen. Every single wall has gone back to brick. It's had damp proof course. It's obviously had the structural work done on it. The bathroom that's on the first floor has had a dog leg put into it and been converted into 2 bathrooms as well. I always try to work on the ratio of 2 to 1 of the sharing. So
you seem to like buying existing HMOs but that have got problems. So you come in, you're not necessarily dealing with change of use or planning, but like you're taking something that's run down.
Yeah, absolutely. A bit of a problem solver, which I think comes naturally from my
production juggling
stuff.
Spinning plates.
This is obviously my largest HMO, but I absolutely want to move on to conversions as well.
Bigger projects often lead to bigger problems, and there's upsides to it as well, but that hasn't put you off. You're kind of still keen to keep going.
Absolutely. I've learned so many different things that have come from this. Every single project has been a huge learning curve, which is a real positive thing. You've just got to look at the silver lining of it and think, right, well, maybe next time I'll do this, or I've learned that for next time, or what have you. So we're near the end of getting this over the line. Just got to get the HMO license sorted, sort out a few things, the fire risk assessment, obviously keep it clean and tidy and what have you, but we're pretty much there. Fortunately for this property, which is a big part of why I've bought it, because of its location, it works for students, professionals and supported living. There's a local charity that I'm aware of who work with vulnerable adults. Before this even got converted into what we've got today, they were interested in this building, but now obviously it's had an upgrade. They absolutely love it, and the idea is that they're going to take it on in a month's time.
So supported living is effectively where a housing provider, often a charity, will come in and lease the property from you, and they'll be responsible for the tenants, finding people to occupy it, rent collection, all that stuff. So it removes a lot of the headaches and hassle from you. And you, 3-5 year lease, something like that?
Yeah, nothing in property is passive, as we know. Yes, they find the tenants, they take on the responsibility of the utilities, the management and the day-to-day maintenance. So I'm doing a 5-year lease with a 3-year break clause.
Okay.
Hopefully they will then continue for 5 years as well.
Can you talk to me about the numbers on this one? What you've spent, what you bought it for, what you expect end values to be?
We purchased this property for £245,000.
Okay.
We've spent nearly £40,000 doing a refurb, and it will value up somewhere in the region of about £320,000 as on a commercial valuation.
Great.
The cash flow on this with a supported living provider is going to be somewhere in the region of about £1,300 a month.
As we walked through here, you mentioned in the kitchen you effectively went back to brick. It needed everything redoing. You said you've been through a process of trying to understand where you get a good bang for your buck on money you spend, making decisions not to spend money in some places, spending money in other places. So you haven't gone back to brick in the whole house. You know, was that difficult to get under control?
I was very guilty of doing absolutely everything that I thought needed doing on that property. I very much went completely over the top on something that I might not necessarily need to have done. I did what was necessary to be done in this property, and obviously I want to future-proof it. So we the damp proof course, we did take the walls back to brick, the external walls anyway. We've obviously made sure that that's all been sorted. Rather than sort of furnishing a 4-bed HMO for around about £6,000, I've done it for 2, and it's still really good quality furniture.
I think with that Instagram world that we live in, TikTok, everything, so many of us learn about property through social media. You see all these glossy images, everything looks kind of magazine perfect, and we think that every rental property, every HMO needs to look like that. And there's a difference between providing good quality accommodation and getting carried away and designing for your own vanity.
Yes.
And I think you've found where that line is.
Absolutely. And I'm not going to get any different rent if I put some mermaid tiles versus metro tiles. Yeah. By streamlining it and also going back to the same providers and saying, I want the same of this, which obviously I can get discounts by doing that. It helps with that long-term maintenance, which is also going to eat into your bottom line as well.
Sure. From here, development, conversions, how far are you going to take it?
Wow, how long is a piece of string, Mike? I don't know. I really want to do a huge property conversion, like a 2-bed into a 6-bed, sort of 6 ensuite sort of HMO. That would be my next step. I'm not going to stop until I have a certain figure, like most people have in their head, and that's where I would like to get to next.
Knowing what you know now, what you've done now, what would you suggest to them to get started?
It's just so easy to get stuck in doing all the analysis, looking at the numbers, trying to work out where this is going to go, and the first thing is just to get started. It doesn't have to be the best house. It can be a small little HMO, a little buy-to-let or what have you, but once you start that process and you understand like the conveyancing period and what it means to take a property back to brick, I think that gives you that confidence. In the world that we are with social media, we're all guilty of looking at these amazing glamorous houses. It doesn't need to be like that. Do not compare yourself to anybody else. You've got to focus on your own goals, work out where it is that you want to go, and just keep on going, but you've got to get started first. So yes, I hang out on Instagram predominantly, and my handle is Kerry Keys Property. I've just had an offer accepted on this most gorgeous Georgian looking residential property that's been in disrepair for 15 years. I've got to get through probate, which is going to be about 6 to 8 months, but that is also another project that I'm going to be taking on, as well as I've got a few others in conveyancing. So yes, I'd love to connect with anybody else, and if I can help in any way, then please feel free to reach out to me.